Thanks for listening to the Business Spotlight podcast presented by the Lancaster-Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce. I'm Logan Weaver, the marketing coordinator for the Chamber. Thanks for tuning in. Today we've got BluSky Restoration as our business in the spotlight. And joining me now is Jon Hale, the business development manager for BluSky Restoration in Columbus. How's it going, Jon?
Good. How are you, Logan?
Hanging in there, doing pretty good.
Good.
Been enjoying the summer weather, made it through the heat wave and everything.
Yes.
So got the 4th of July holiday coming up too, so looking forward to that as well.
Me too.
So, Jon, tell us a little bit about what you do, your career up to this point. You've been pretty familiar with the Lancaster-Fairfield County community, so for folks who don't
you want
know
me to go back that far?
Well, as far back as you want to go.
All right. Well, before we talk in depth about BluSky Restoration, which is why we're here, I will let you know that we're sitting in what years ago was my office here at the Chamber office.
So coincidental, yeah.
Yes, I was with the Fairfield County Visitors and Convention Bureau back in the mid to late 90s, and we were in here with the Chamber. We shared the office suite. So of two offices that I had during my tenure there, this was the one that I was in the longest.
Boy, the coincidence is just, wow.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead and what is BluSky Restoration? I know there's been some changes here within the last year and a half here on the local level, but tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, kind of talking about back when this was my office, I left the Visitors Bureau back in the late 90s and went to work for one of the other restoration companies in Columbus doing business development and marketing, and I was with them for a number of years, left at one point, was out of the industry and then kind of got recruited back into the industry about 2.5 years ago. And at that time, I came on with a company called Mammoth Restoration. Mammoth was based out of Pennsylvania. We had multiple offices in multiple states. But a little over a year ago, we got word that Mammoth as a company had been acquired by BluSky Restoration, and we would be making that transition and eventually fully integrating as BluSky. So last September, we had our integration date where we signed off of the systems for Mammoth on a Friday, and Monday we signed on to brand new systems fully as BluSky Restoration.
And coincidentally, Jon, I know you mentioned that this is the 20th anniversary for BluSky as well.
Yeah, 2024 is, we are observing the 20th anniversary. In fact, I think it may be this month is the actual 20th anniversary. BluSky began as a single standalone startup office in Denver, Colorado. The corporate offices are still in the Denver area. And I find it very impressive that in just a short 20 years, they were able to have initial good organic success through doing good work, good management, and all of that. Had some good growth and got to a point where they were able to begin acquiring other companies and growing in that way as well. So that's how we came to go from the single office in 2004 to 60 plus offices in 27 states as of today.
So for folks who don't know about BluSky Restoration, obviously it's in the name restoration, but kind of give us a little bit of insight as to what BluSky is all about. So
BluSky Restoration, we are what is considered the industry is called insurance restoration. So you have property damage of some sort. And that's the way I've always explained it to clients or prospective clients. Any kind of property damage that someone would be inclined to pick up the phone and call their insurance agent about, that's what we can come in and take care of. So we can come in, we're available 24/7. We can come in, frozen and burst pipe has flooded part of the house or part of the business or whatever it is. We can come in, we can get the water cleaned up, get the dry down process begun, do any kind of demolition that might be necessary as a result of the water damage. A lot of times The water is wicked up a certain distance off the floor into the drywall, and so you can demo some of that, get rid of that, get it all dried down. We can then transition from the emergency service, the mitigation part of it, to the repair if necessary.
So do you guys primarily do residential or commercial, or is it a healthy mix of both?
Our primary business development focus, what I do and what our other two business development managers do, our efforts are focused as much as possible on commercial opportunities.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
But you're never going to, in our industry, I hate to say never, but it's very difficult to fully get away from residential. And residential opportunities are fine. We welcome those. You tend to get those opportunities come your way through relationships that you have with insurance agents and people like that.
Makes sense, yeah.
What we do as business development managers is we focus on specific target market verticals, and engage with clients and prospective clients within those. So as an example, I handle the commercial real estate side for our Columbus office, as well as hospitality. So I belong to various professional trade associations in and around Central Ohio, for both commercial real estate, the hotel side, restaurant side. Those two kind of go hand in hand in the hospitality.
Gotcha.
side.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So tell us a little bit about some of the services. Like, I know we had mentioned before, emergency response is a big one for you guys.
Yes. We're available 24/7. We have a 24-hour emergency dispatch number. In fact, I can give that number now if it's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
That's 800-266-5677. My number directly, and I do my best. My phone is on and that ringer is on. Best I can manage 24/7. My number 740-602-6379. Either of those numbers, if someone has need for our services, either of those numbers is going to really get the same response.
So I'll pitch you a situation here, John, especially since you're on the hospitality side a lot too, as you mentioned. I'm a restaurant owner, kitchen fire
Right.
goes out of control,
Sure.
and half my building is now engulfed in flames.
Right.
Gets put out, emergency response comes out,
Yes.
etc. First call I make is BluSky Restoration.
Sure.
Walk me through that process.
Initial response would be, first of all, I'm going to ask, is everybody okay? Okay, nobody was hurt. Property can be rebuilt, can be cleaned up, can be repaired. I don't ever want to see anybody hurt.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask first, was anybody hurt? Very relieved when you tell me no.
Yeah.
So
everyone's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to come out initially, and you may have some windows that were busted out because of the heat, or sometimes the firefighters need to break out windows, or they need to cut,
take out walls, or
they'll cut inspection holes in roofs and things like that. We can board up those windows, get that roof tarped up so that if the rainstorm is coming in, it's not going to cause any more damage than is already there. Okay. Then we're going to, begin to look at the process of, let's get the debris out of here. Let's start doing the necessary demo to figure out what is here that can be saved or salvaged, and what do we need to be looking at to actually build back brand new.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we can go through that process step by step. So you sort of have the first phase is that initial response to get there, get the property secured. That's also very important in the board up process and all that. You don't necessarily want those windows hanging open, or that door,
that
off the hinges or something.
Risk.
It can be a potential risk. So you get that boarded up, you get it secured. The next phase then is, again, looking at What cleanup do we have to do? Was the fire structural, or was most of the damage smoke? Can it be cleaned? It might be able to be cleaned. It might need to be demolitioned and the drywall put back.
Rebuilt,
so right. So we can make those determinations. And those things can be handled as part of that mitigation process. Looking then, once you get sort of to the point where, okay, now we know that we took out these walls and we've got the remaining studs and they've been properly cleaned and sealed or whatever. Now we're looking at the repair side of things, where we're going to do what we call the putback. Okay. So we would estimate that. We would put a quote together and very often work very closely with not only the property owner, but with any insurance representative, any claims rep, or any insurance adjuster that is working on that to determine exactly what needs to be done. Here's the quote for what we can do to get it back to the way it was pre-loss, and boom, move on from there.
Awesome. Now, one thing that I've noticed here lately, we've had a lot of severe weather in Lancaster, Fairfield County the last 3 to 6 months.
Right.
More so than I remember, living here the last several years. It seems like here lately, almost every other week, there's at least a big storm that comes through. If you've got shingles on your roof, or if you've got, the potential for flooding in a basement.
Right.
What types of things do you guys see most of, especially kind of in this general area? Is it more trees on buildings? Is it more, damaged roofs, or anything in particular?
Kind of all of the above. With some of the storm activity we've had over the last couple of months, not only locally, but in the general region in Ohio, we've seen all of that. We saw windows that were blown out over in the Indian Lake area.
Yes, I do remember that.
House that we got called about, we were just securing windows. Not much else was damaged. A couple of houses on down, practically the entire house was destroyed. And storms like that can
it can vary.
Can kind of do, let's be honest, weird stuff like that. But we may get called because part of the roof is blown off. And usually the initial response there is, well, we got to get a tarp on it because there could be more rain. And what you're trying to do there is at least keep any interior damage from getting any worse.
Right.
So you're trying to mitigate that as a risk. Some pumps fail and basements flood. And if it's partial or fully finished, you got to be able to go in and start getting that pumped out, getting it cleaned up and dried out. A lot of times that involves, we're going to pull the carpet, we're going to pull the pad. And again, depending upon how long it was there, we may need to flood cut drywall, do some demo, and then look at the repair side of things.
And speaking of which, especially if there's homes that have had multiple issues, especially in basements, I know mold can be a big issue.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
There's this big initiative here lately. I know there's some local community funds available for homes that may have lead paint, still.
Yes.
Redoing that. You guys also kind of work in those regards to mold, asbestos, lead,
yes,
in those fields.
We can look at environmental risks as well, mold remediation, asbestos, and lead abatement. Those are kind of the primary ones on the environmental side. Listeners may be aware, they may not, that if you've had a water issue like that, particularly in a finished basement or someplace where you have drywall, or you have, some basements don't even need to be finished. They may be concrete block walls, but they may have some stud walls or, supporting studs for stairwells and things like that. Once that's been sufficiently wet, you may find that if it isn't properly dried and soon enough, particularly if it's hot and humid like it has been lately, within about 72 hours, you can begin to have some sort of microbial growth. So you got to be careful of that. We work routinely with industrial hygienists to test, determine what exactly is the black stuff we might be looking at. And then maybe what's the protocol that they provide to us to take care of that, to remediate it.
Yeah, that's got to be a homeowner or even a business owner's worst nightmare is finding black mold specifically.
Yeah. That's an example that you gave when we first started this part of the conversation was trees on houses. Coincidentally, over this past weekend, we had a call. Fairly good-sized tree was laying on this gentleman's house. And our first step was to get out, get a look at it. We did direct him to a tree removal company that could get the tree off of there. Then we tarped up the roof, certainly damaged, but at least we did that initial mitigation so that there wasn't, hopefully, any worse. He didn't get water in his house if it then happened to rain or storm. And we will be looking at the repair. In fact, we're in the process of estimating that repair and providing a quote for that.
Well, that's awesome, John. It's glad to hear that there is an organization, a company that can, as big as BluSky is and as rapidly as they're growing, it's good to know that it's still here on a local level, at least within the Lancaster, Fairfield County, even Columbus area, that there is folks here that are able to pitch in last moment's notice, and especially in these emergency situations, because as we've seen, like I mentioned this year, more and more tornado watches, tornado warnings, and that's the increase in severe weather here lately. You guys have probably seen an increase in calls because of that. Not just that, but with fires and everything else on top of that. Yeah.
You mentioned BluSky and its growth. That's one thing that one of the approaches that they take in their marketing and positioning is national focus, local touch. So I get a call for someone within the overall Central Ohio or Ohio area for something. We can respond from our Columbus office. We may pull in our counterparts from Toledo if necessary. But we can get the process started, but if it's a large enough situation, we have regional support. So we can pull in regional resources. If it's even larger than that, if it's a major, let's say a major commercial loss of some sort, we can pull in national resources as well. So we're not limited as BluSky Columbus just to our staff and our folks doing that work. We have a lot of support along the way and as we kind of go up the chain.
One more time, John, if someone here in Lancaster, Fairfield County has any sort of emergency response to the need as far as property damage, whether it's commercial, residential, how can they reach out?
They can reach out directly to me if they like, 740-602-6379. Also, our nationwide emergency dispatch call center. It's manned 24 hours a day, 800-266-5677.
You can learn more about BluSky Restoration online. That's goblusky.com, GOBLUSKY.com.
That's right. There's no E in blue.
No
in BluSky.
E in blue.
I spell that quite frequently for people when I'm giving them my email address, and I'll spell it all out, and then I'll go back and repeat. So it's Go BluSky, no E in blue.
There you go. That's Jon Hale, Business Development Manager for BluSky Restoration. John, thanks for joining the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Logan. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Business Spotlight podcast presented by the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce.